the guy named Matthew is going to be out, making sure that whoever's on YouTube, if they're trying to say something or come on and share information online, we will be able to hear from them as well. And then we have Catherine, Beth, Rachel, and Cheryl all here from PAC to help out. Mary Lee too. And so we're here to be supportive. Tonight is all about relatively smaller questions, role play questions, things we can sort of bring up and share out and raise issues and try to figure things out. When we meet on the 20th, we'll be digging into some cases and doing some problem solving on challenging situations people are running into and dealing with and facing, where we can dig in a little deeper into probably 3 or 4 situations. So tonight we're going to work hard to try to hit a lot of topics, a lot of quick responses. And if you have a question you want to bring up, if you would text, chat it down at the bottom, chat to Catherine or to everybody. You can just chat to everybody, but Catherine will pick up on it or Beth will pick up on it if need be. And Rachel's got some questions we already have in. So we're going to start with a couple of Rachel's questions, and then we'll see what else we get going as we're kicking it off. So Rachel, what have you got in the hopper?
Well, one of the questions I have is, how do you deal with someone who's living with dementia who's asking about others that have died, like their spouse?
Okay, so what we have a situation with is somebody's brain is not able to hold on to the data of the loss of someone, and yet the person is aware the person isn't available to them, and their brain is saying, well, where are they? And that would be something I would expect if I had someone really close to me. And they weren't where I expected them to be when I expected them to be. Then that would be a time I would want to know, well, where are they? And what we want to hold in our heads in that moment is, in that moment, the person does not realize the person is gone. They have died. And so bringing it up will either cause an emergency reaction of, what? No, because it's a surprise, or a grieving reaction because they may be having that sort of almost awareness of it, or a disbelief in us. So that's not particularly helpful. So let's try something else, which is to figure out, wonder what brought up the need for that person in that moment. Why are they asking in this moment? What is it about that person, their relationship in the moment that's causing it? I'll give you a shot at, hey, listen, where's my husband?
Oh, Teepa, it's Beth.
Hey.
And I'm going to pause a second. It totally blocked out with the audio. Are you talking to me or somebody else?
You.
Oh, good.
I said
okay,
you.
good. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Hey.
Now, what happened is, and I was staying in role and Beth was not, when Beth was asking me something that wasn't related to my immediate request, I'm not interested in the conversation. And that's important to pick up on, because it means distraction is not something that's going to work here. Distract me from this until I get something that makes me feel like I've got an answer. You're not going to distract me from where is my husband, unless I am further along in my misunderstanding. And let's say I'm not that far, I just have lost data. I'm not real lost in time, but I've lost some data here. Hey, do you know where Dick is? I can't find him.
Ooh, Teepa, you're looking for Dick.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't find him.
No, I thought he was here, and now I don't know where he went.
Well, you thought he was right here, and now he's... Oh.
Wasn't he here? I thought I talked to him not long ago.
I thought you talked to him. Hey, Teepa, do you want to talk to him to ask him something, or just to be with him?
Well, I wanted to ask him about the when you go to the, shut up. I'm trying to tell you, when you go to the, what is it you go to? He does it and I don't do it so much. And he goes to the is that? Shoot.
Goes to it.
So what's the secondary thing you're noticing that I'm also struggling with, which is not uncommon when I'm starting to have trouble with something that's emotionally impactful? What am I now starting to have a hard time finding? Not just my husband. Now what?
Words.
Yeah, my words. I can't find the name of the place he goes.
Ah. Hey, Teepa.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're looking for the place he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you don't go to.
No, not so much. I mean, I go to the store a lot, but he goes to what's the name of that place? They have the where he puts in the things and then it goes into the account. The account. I think it goes in the account.
It goes in
and
the
then
account.
you have it. Yeah.
Oh, wait, does he go into the bank or something else?
Yeah, no, the bank. Yeah. So so go into the bank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
is bank. You're
well,
thinking
I needed to ask him about it.
about the bank. Ooh, yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking for something in the
Okay, so I want to pause. So in this case, what was the reason I was asking for Dick? I want you guys to think, why was I asking for Dick?
You need some money?
It's something that he has a role in me getting something I want. And so this is really not about, I'm really missing my husband. As an emotional person, it's really me missing the guy that's going to be able to help me get this thing done that I want to get done. But we can do the same exact role play, but what I'm missing is my husband. If you don't explore this enough to figure out what it is that I'm actually seeking when I say, where's my husband? We are missing the connection the person needs to feel comfortable. And if they don't start feeling comfortable, if we can't figure out how to do that, the distress is going to continue because the brain isn't able to settle itself because there's this unmet distress state. So that's sort of an important feature, I think, in what you heard Beth do was a significant amount of checking out that she heard what I said, trying to provide me a little bit of an either or option or a way to move forward a little bit, and then giving me some things. And who's doing a fair amount of the conversation? If you were to weigh how many of us is doing what did you notice about the conversation? It's about a 50-50. Beth needs to use about as many words as I use. And if I'm pausing and repeating, she needs to do a little pausing and repeating. Otherwise, she just overwhelms my brain with too much, and then she's not helpful either. And it means you have to slow down. And you may be going through it a few times. And that's, it's like, I think one of the hardest times is shortly after someone has died. And you yourself may be grieving. And it's really hard to have this kind of conversation, or heaven forbid, I actually get to a place where I say, well, he's probably out cheating on me. And it's like, what? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from a deep sense that why else would he be missing? And before he died, we were actually not having great relationship, perhaps because he was my primary, and we were having trouble with my background, his background, and how well we were dealing with dementia. I mean, it's not always an easy answer, I guess. It's part of it.
So you're saying that I probably shouldn't try to reassure you of something gently that you're clearly unaware of.
Yeah, probably not. So if I said he's cheating on me, then the best response is, whoa, that's not good. So you feel like he's cheating on you. Wow, that's hard to imagine. You can say that is hard to imagine. I cannot imagine that. Wow. Tell me more about that. mean, how awful. And still be sort of, I don't think that's true, but you don't want to go head to head. Mom, that's not true. Why would you think that? No, 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 no. That means you don't believe me. There's a very different feel to it versus you don't think that's true, but wow, that sounds really weird. But that's sort of not the same as oppositional behavior, if you want to put it in those terms. Yeah, cool. All right, Rachel, what else do we got coming up?
Teepa, we have some questions that have to do with bathing or changing briefs, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we have kind of the aspect of we need to change the person and they really don't want to be touched.
Okay.
So that's the first one.
So, so this is a situation where my curiosity is always a little bit deeper, which is they don't want to be touched. So is this a case where I've always been an independent person and I recognize that I'm wet, but I don't want somebody else putting their hands on me? Is it a case where I have a history of abuse, neglect, some sense that people do things to you whether you like it or not, and this isn't the first time this has happened, and now I'm getting anticipatory distress about being touched or handled?
This is a question that came from the chat from Sorel, and I think Sorel is on the panel here. Maybe she can give you just a little more insight on that.
Okay. So, Sorel, you can either unmute and talk, or you could use the chat a little bit, but trying to figure out a little bit more about where the lack of willingness to be touched might be coming from, to sort of decide which direction to take this, what kind of support to offer. One thing that almost always I will bring up is the idea of hand under hand guided support versus trying to do something to someone. And if that's not a familiar skill, that makes a huge difference. But I've had some people, even with hand under hand, they don't want to be messed with. And that makes it hard because what they're saying is, I don't want anybody to mess with me, even with support, even with you being nice. I don't really care. So,
Teepa, Lynn said this person has partial paralysis and incontinence for 4 years.
Wow.
Doesn't think he's aware of the need to change. He's too weak to change himself.
Okay, so on the partial paralysis, what we want to keep in mind is which side that is on, and if it's the dominant side, like if he's right-handed and it's on the right side, we want to be aware of any visual disturbance on that side, like does the person have vision on that side? Can they see us if we're on that side? Because typically people prefer us to be on a side where they feel more comfortable. And even 4 years after a stroke, many people prefer us on their preferred old side than the new have to use side. But if he has vision problems, then he may not be able to pay attention to us unless we're in the mid-range. So even though I'm on that side, I am very much in the middle of his body. So I'm turned sideways, but he is like right here. So I'm almost, his nose is coming right here on me. So I will often use phrases like, you pull them down. You do it. I don't want to be doing this. You do it. Here, push it down. You got it. And so I will take my hand and place it so it feels like he's pushing my hand down. So you do it. Push it down. And I use pretty forceful language. You push it down so that he gets some emphasis on the action, and it's push it down. Pull your pants down is actually a stupid phrase that we should get rid of, because pulling denotes pulling things in towards the middle of yourself or up, pull. And so push them down, push. There, you got it. Yes, that's it. Perfect. Now you do it. You don't want me doing it. I don't want to do it. Here, you do it. I'm just, go ahead. I will take my left hand, if it is on the right person's right side, and go to the back. And what you want to do is pull on the pants. Don't touch the human. So you tug down on the pants to give the direction of movement, but you don't actually touch them because they don't want to be touched. Pull them down or push them down. Push, push, that's it. Yeah, you got it. And although I'm doing the vast majority of the task, I'm giving the message, you're doing it. You're independent. And the thing to remember about a stroke is with partial paralysis, there's also a reduction in sensation. And so he's less sensory aware. So I can actually trick that brain into thinking they're doing more than they're doing. And I can convince the brain that they're the power that made this happen. You got it, excellent, excellent. So what I would say is frequently people who are showing that kind of tendency with incontinence, we may also see it with showering or mouth care or a lot of things, because what's happening is the person feels out of control. And the reason the person feels out of control is we keep taking control. And as this cycle plays itself out several times, what starts to happen is the person's only way of being in control is to refuse and to resist. And that becomes the way that they show that they're in control, is by saying no. And saying no physically is the result of not listening to no verbally. So when we continue this pattern, what ends up happening is it becomes a habit, and then the habit becomes hard to break. And usually by the time people are noticing how much trouble they're in, it's a pretty strongly ingrained habit that we've gotten into of trying to do something the person doesn't like. And now we feel like we're in trouble. And it's like, yep, we are, because it's actually been going on for a while and escalating quietly. And it's only when we hit that place where, no, don't you touch me, no, don't, I'll break your damn arm. When somebody is becoming what we call violent, but what that's usually evidence of is we've had multiple incidences of them trying to tell us, and we didn't really work out how to get a and it's hard because time sense, the passage of time is missing, and they don't have a sense it's been that long since they changed, and they're missing sensation. So it's really a culmination of problems by the time we're trying to fix it. So it's pretty complicated, and we've got some videos on it. And we may want to see if we can figure out how to do more videos on it.
Teepa, somebody did have a question about the difference between Ativan and Lunesta. Somebody wanted their person on Lunesta because Ativan was a benzo.
Yeah, Lunesta is one, and I'm not a physician, so let me start off by saying I'm not a physician. I have not played one on TV, but I do know a fair amount about medications with dementia. The challenge with Lunesta is it is a medication that interacts with the central nervous system in such a way that it induces almost a sleep state, but it's not a consistent sleep state. So it's a risky medication to give someone who's living with dementia. If the dementia they have particularly has some Lewy body involvement, which means synuclein protein malformations. Synuclein protein problems particularly can occur in the core of the brain, in the primitive part of the brain, where sleep state control is, where appetite and the arousal state control is, where blood pressure control is, heart rate control is, respiratory control is. And so what can happen with Lunesta is people who have Lewy body and take Lunesta can literally be up and moving. And that's always a risk with that medication, but they can actually do things that are quite dangerous and have absolutely no awareness that they're moving, because the Lewy body phenomena creates the opportunity to move where you as I are paralyzed in sleep, and they aren't. And so they can go out of a top bunk bed, they could fall down a flight of steps, they could step off a porch and fall 5 flights. I mean, this is the kind of things that can happen. They can try to drive a motor vehicle. They could try to do all kinds of, they could try to cut things in the kitchen and have absolutely eat. I've had somebody eat an SOS pad thinking they were having something to eat. And the family member they couldn't get them to wake up. And so the downside of Lunesta for people who have certain types of dementia is it is risky. Any benzodiazepines, and a benzo is a little bit different than Ativan is an anti-anxiety med. And it is sort of like taking dehydrated alcohol. So if you give somebody a shot of alcohol for something and it's a good thing, then that may be what you want to try. The challenge is sort of, what are we trying to do with it? What's the point of it or the purpose with it? The Ativan type medications tend to be short acting. And so unfortunately they reduce anxiety, but if we don't figure out what caused the anxiety and what brought the person to wakefulness, guess what? When they come awake again, they're in the same state because we haven't actually figured out what was causing the distress or the anxiety that was leading to the inability to get into a sleep state. And often going into a sleep state is a challenge for people, particularly for people who live with Lewy body. I mean, it is really hard for Lewy body. About 50% of the folks cannot get into REM sleep, which is the deep sleep, dream state sleep. And they have that restless legs phenomena. So not an easy answer, but there's more anecdotal evidence of CBD oil kinds of stuff, or CBD being used for people with Lewy body with fairly decent outcomes, and it's worth exploring. And there are places and locations to do some exploration with it to see what that might do. Nothing's magic. It really does look at other sleep hygiene first, though, to see what else we could come up with before we try medications that sedate, because they don't tend to always work consistently, depending on the dementia, for sure, and the age of the person and many other things. That was a good question.
So Teepa, I think that these people had taken their person out of long-term care and had weaned her off of all of the meds, but a small amount of the Ativan.
Okay. Well, there are many people in the world who end up taking an anti-anxiety med, pretty, just a small amount, because it takes the edge off. Quite honestly, a little bit of an anti-anxiety med in this time and place in life, lots of people that are on anxiety medications, and some of them are prescribed and some of them are not. But what people are trying to do is deal with anxiety. And that's what that medication is for. Breathing is great. If you could maybe do some and rhythmic movements, sometimes rocking movements can also be an anti-anxiety inducer. And then things like humming can also sometimes start the edge off. But there are times when it doesn't. Dancing with someone can sometimes do it. Swaying back and forth. But again, fatigue factors enter in when you're the primary provider and you're tired too. And anybody who's ever had a small child in their life and they just won't go to sleep and you are just so tired. It's just that, that's when shaken babies happen. So you just really want to be tuned into how tired you are. And is part of it our fatigue? Because often it is. We're tired too, and we need it to stop. And we don't need to destroy two people because we're not getting enough rest. Because rest is really vital. I mean, so important for us because my brain doesn't work well if I'm not getting enough sleep, added to which it increases my own risk over time of something going wrong in my brain, me having an accident, making a mistake, not being able to be alert and aware. Yeah.
Thanks. Another question that someone had was about dealing with the shorter days and the darkness and the effect on Lewy body or other dementias. The person wants to go to bed earlier, and then they get up about 1 or 3 and they think it's ready to start the day, and they wake everybody up.
Yeah. So this time of year is a bear. I mean, this is a hard time of year because of the length of dark. So this is the kind of time where it's important to think historically, we don't always need to have, and I know this is going to be sort of a non-traditional take on this. Maybe what we needed is divide sleep into 2 slots and do a 4-hour period and then a 4-hour period with some wake time in the middle of the night. That wasn't that unusual. If you think of farmers, that's often when the cows need to be milked. So what would happen is farmers go to bed early and they get up in the middle because that's the cows get an early morning milking and then the evening milking. And depending on where you live and what you do, that middle of the night time is a decent time to be up. It's quiet. There's less going on. You can sort of get things done. It's sort of a time and a place to do something with less busyness around you. And so not all waking in the middle of the night is really necessarily a bad thing. One of our challenges is we want to continue
it. It has
our
to be
path.
on.
Hey, Michael, you've
No, I
got your
don't.
sound on and you may not need to have it on. It's just a thought. You may want it on, but I doubt it. So we'll see whether Michael recognizes it or Carrie can help him. There we go. Thanks, Carrie. Because I don't think Michael figured he was on. So one of the things we can also do is recognize at the end of a day, even if it's been a relatively short day, people are tired. And so maybe what we want to do is go ahead and let people take a break and take a nap, but maybe not go into solid sleep state. Another option is to do a nap after dinner and then with a gradual, ooh, Beth, oh, I hate waking you up, but I need your help. Just for a little while. Hey, Beth, yeah, it's me. Listen, hey, you were just getting some rest, huh? Oh, hey, Beth.
Yeah.
Listen. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, come with me. I could use your help. And it's 10 o'clock. You know, so this is the tricky part is, yeah, I want to go to sleep in an hour or two because that's my pattern. But if I don't have her get up about now and do something with me for a bit and then go back to sleep, what's going to happen is she's going to do that 3 o'clock wake up, that 2 o'clock wake up because she's had enough sleep then. And then she's coming up and she's not going back down. And that's when I would like to be in solid state sleep. So I don't have an easy answer. Sometimes what I say is maybe it's time to call in the troops and get a second person to do nighttime for you. And you get to do your sleep and they get to do theirs in the day. So find the person who sleeps easily when there's light. It will not be me. I did do nights for a while. I'm not good at it because when it's day, I can't go back to sleep. Now, some people who work nights, they're really decent at sleeping in the day. And so for them, that transition, it's okay because they can sleep in the day. Some of us are not really good at sleeping in the day, and it becomes really quite risky for us to do much at night. on a regular basis. It puts us in higher risk categories for just about all health conditions. She says, smiling. So making a decision to not work night shift. I did it back when I was out of undergraduate and before graduate school. I worked nights, and I will tell you that ick. And I've certainly done it through my career at times, and it's always for me ick. Nighttime, if I'm going to do something at night, it has to be something I want to do, not a lot of work. But other people are good at night. I am just not that at night owl. Not my thing. So it's important to know your circadian pattern, I think, is part of this art of caregiving, because I think we underestimate the power of our own need to sleep decently. And it will break us. It's the fastest way to break human beings, is deny them sleep. That and pain. Pain and lack of sleep will do it for us. All right, what else we got cooking tonight?
Another question was how to introduce another care partner when the spouse is really attached to that one person, and how to introduce another person to come and support.
All right, well, I'm going to let Beth start this one. I'm going to let Beth chat through this one. And she could even try it with, let's say Cheryl's the new care partner.
I love it. Oh, Cheryl, hey. Hey, Cheryl. Thank you so much for coming to work with Mom. She's just amazing. So one of the things that we have learned is that she's really attached to me, but here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you and I have a lot of similarities. And I'm wondering if we might be able to go in together, and together we could sort of see how we could become partners. And only at that point we'll see about, rather than me just dumping her on you. Is that something we could try?
I think that'd be a great idea if we went in together before you just send me in there, Beth. Thank you so much for that.
Well, so one of the things that she really enjoys, and I know you had mentioned this as well, is she loves a cup of coffee like nobody's business.
Oh, just like me.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to head in there, and I'm thinking right about now is not the time that she's got any coffee. So might you be able to come in with some coffee? But here's one thing I'm going to ask you to do. When you come in, if you could stop, so put your arm out here. And if you and I were in front of each other, our hands wouldn't be touching. We'd be almost touching. But really that 2 arms length away, right there, just stop and go, try this. Go, hold up the coffee and go, ooh, 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 nice. Let's see what happens if she responds to that. We'll see what happens. We'll go from there. Sound good?
Sounds great.
You're the saver with the coffee. Okay, let's give it a try.
Okay, let's do it.
So what you saw Beth doing was choosing not to have Cheryl and I be present with one another when she first was working with Cheryl to figure out what to try. So we want to have a separate conversation without me being present. Then what she was going to do is set it up so that she was with me and Cheryl came into the space but maintained our new phrase, social distance. Only we call it go to the edge of personal space and stop. We've always had it. It's just sort of, that's the boundary marker where one human being is like, yeah, who are you? And do I want to have an interaction with you? And what Beth informed Cheryl in a nice way is, I want you to stop at the boundary between what my mom or my person might feel is moving into her space and that boundary marker of public space, shared space. And I want you to stop there, and I want you to give a real strong visual cue that you want to know something. And that's why you want to come into the relationship with her. So not really thinking, Beth has really given up thinking that there's going to be an easy transition. This is going to take time, effort, There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to have to get transferred. So what she's trying to do is find some quick starts, some easy wins, some low-hanging fruit for mom. And so the coffee, something warm to put over my shoulders, something to go look at, a question that I know she'll know the answer to, asking for an opinion. She's setting Cheryl up to have some quick wins, some quick fixes that will give me a positive feeling about this person. Not that she's going to be my new friend, but that I can help her, she can help me, there's something nice about her. But I don't need to worry about what's happening with Beth. Beth wants to position herself at first inside my intimate space. And interestingly enough, classically, she'll want to be so that I can see her and I can touch her as I need, but I can interact with Cheryl. So it's very common for Beth, if she's smart, to get to my left side, a little to my front, and be my shield. Because if I don't like Cheryl, Beth will protect me. If I do like Cheryl, I can interact with her and Beth's still there. I can grab hold of her and it's not stopping me from having this interaction. And Beth can turn and talk to me and then turn back away so that Cheryl will be looking at both of us so that there's no keeping me out of the interaction, but that in fact, Cheryl has more chance to make eye contact with me, but I can make eye contact with Beth and look at Cheryl and I could tell Beth to say something to her. So I have Beth there present for me and I'm not feeling abandoned. And yet Beth isn't trying to get me to talk to Cheryl. Like, y'all know that sort of setup where it's like, so Rachel, this is a lady I'd like you to meet. So come on over, let me introduce you. And it's like, no, I don't know about that. Are you leaving? So clearly Beth is there and she's not going anywhere. And so there's a reassurance to that. So it's sort of a choreographed piece. It's not just the words and the work Beth just did. It's also a choreograph of where do we position ourselves so that we have a good interaction. And then Cheryl may or may not get to come a whole lot closer. She might the first couple times. She might not. And Cheryl has to be really comfortable with not a lot of eye contact if I'm not wanting her to make eye contact, or a lot of eye contact if I like it. I may be very friendly, but I may not want to have a whole lot of interaction physically with her. And so she's got to give me time and space. And that idea of, hey, Teepa, could you help me for just a second? Well, what do you need? Well, let me show you. Well, it better be right here because I'm not going with you. I don't trust you. Because I know people want to get rid of me sometimes. I'm not stupid. I have dementia. I know you want to palm me off. You've tried it before.
So after the three friends, three equals, have coffee together, one of the things that I'm thinking of immediately is, so, man, Cheryl, thank you so much for having coffee with us. How did that go? How did that go for you? Here, or here? How do you think?
Well, we kind of hear.
Yeah, she
here.
not-
You know, she wasn't quite sure about me, so I stayed my distance.
Yeah, that was really cool. You stayed yet that distance, but were you, and then how far were you able to get in with her? How close?
Well, a little bit closer in, but not into that intimate space where she was going to allow me to
Yeah. So
hand
that
her anything, or
you can hand her, but that's about it. And then she's like, this is it. Yeah. So what does that remind you of in terms of your physical interaction with other people if they didn't have dementia? So if you were to have coffee with an acquaintance, how close would you get with that acquaintance? Would it be a little bit closer or about that same distance?
maybe a little bit closer, but not.
Yeah. So a little closer, but not that much closer.
Sitting on her lap, no.
So what does it tell you then about Teepa with her level of how fast she's going to warm up or how fast we're going to be able to get things like that. I'm so excited because I know you have skills to do, is that ADL interaction.
I think I have a little bit more relationship building to do before I can start even with any of the hands-on care.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit longer before this acquaintance lets us get into her pants. You think?
I am sure.
Yeah. Nice.
So what Beth is doing is what we really would love every care partner who is the intimate to be able to do, which is take the step back and go, okay, so let's really explore why there's going to be this hesitation to disconnect from me and connect from someone else. And it's like building trust. It's building a relationship. And when my brain isn't as healthy and well as it has been, some people are open to anybody. Oh my God. Oh, I love you. You're wonderful. Don't you wish? Some of us are a lot more gun shy and like, who are you and why are you here? And if the very next thing is, well, let's get your clothes off and let's go for a shower. It's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. But if you move too fast, then you have to take 2 steps back and you're going to have to stay there longer for me to be at all willing to have you move forward. So what Beth is doing with Cheryl is reinforcing that Cheryl did a great job. Let's continue at that rate rather than demanding that Cheryl or saying, Cheryl, do you think you could move it forward a little bit so I can take a break? And what's really hard is Beth can be really tired and really wants a break. But the more you feel that, unfortunately, you can telegraph that to a person living with dementia. Because I just really want to get to the store. I really want to go into the office and get something done. And the person picks up on it because, again, I will say people are not stupid. They may have dementia, but they're noticing that slide and step thing that we are doing, which is just, I just need a break for 5 minutes. And it's like, and sometimes you can say to somebody, I really need a break. Would you do me a huge favor and help Cheryl for a few minutes? She's wanting to do something like, and I don't even understand what she's asking me to do. It had something to do with some kind of picture thing that she wanted to do with colored pencils. And it is not my thing, but she needed help. And I don't even know what she's talking about. Maybe you could understand her. And walk away having said, I really need to get something done. And I don't know what Cheryl wants. Could you help me? Which is a role reversal. And it puts me in the seat of, oh, so I have something that, well, what is it she wants? And then Cheryl has to figure out how to do this thing that makes me feel competent. Whether it's arranging flowers or sorting through colored pencils or figuring out, how to hang a light or do something. But she's got to come up with a task of value for me.
So Cheryl, given some of the conversations that came up with my mom, what did you pick up on? What were some of the things that, because I heard a couple, but what were some of the things you picked up on that she seemed to feel pretty confident about in terms of her history of skill sets? Like she talked a little bit about crafting. What were some of the stuff you heard from Teepa?
Oh, well, she really, really enjoys learning more. She's always been wanting to learn more and more.
Yeah, so her history about, her teacher hat is just huge. So is there something that you could honestly, so we know we're not going straight to ADLs, but I'd love to move past coffee. Is there something that you could confidently say that you don't feel like you're some expert in, that you think Teepa might be, that you guys can do side by side on the table together and she could be showing you?
Well, I'm curious if she could give me some more information. I think Teepa, or I know Teepa actually was an OT, and I could use a few exercises for my shoulder.
Nice. Okay, cool. Awesome. So is there something you could bring with you to do together with that? Of course, it may be that she just goes right in and helps you move your shoulder. Do you have like elastic bands or something or anything you could bring in?
I do have some of those different colored ones, yellow and green and red, and they
Like those stretchy therapy bands.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, let's give that a whirl. And this time what we're going to try is if you could come in and try that, like, ooh, same thing. So starting at that.
Instead of the coffee, the bands.
Nice. And then see if you can get, ooh, I could use your help. I'm going to try to see if I can, as you guys are working, ooh, I got to grab something. I'll be right back. And I'm coming back. See if that interaction happens. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
I'm curious if I brought in a few different colors of bands. I have yellow, red, and green. So maybe I could really use your help. I don't know which color to use.
I love it. I love it. Perfect. Yeah. And that makes absolute sense. All right. We'll give that a try.
So what you see us talking about, and the reason we're going over this in depth is because this is the biggest mistake people tend to make, is they try to get it to go too quick. And people try to transition new people in too quickly. And what we're doing is this it seems sort of slow and it seems sort of clunky. But in fact, what we're asking Cheryl to do is to take an intimate position with me. And it's going to take some time to build that trust. And what is Beth finding out about Cheryl? Because this isn't just a one-way street. What is Beth building in Cheryl, but also finding out about Cheryl as the person she's going to leave me with? What is she figuring out? Which is really important for her to know if she's going to step away with any assurance and not, when she steps away, wonder what the heck's going to be happening while she's gone. What is she figuring out about Cheryl?
And not that I have a sore shoulder. I'm leaving you with her and you got a sore shoulder. Oh no.
Well, see,
Not that part.
she came up with not only latched onto the idea, but then she can generalize.
Yeah, so
new stuff.
Yeah, so Cheryl can do a little problem solving and come up with some ideas. So, ooh, good. What do we find out about Teepa? Teepa likes to teach and she likes new and she likes to try things and she likes help. And so that idea, Cheryl's got some characteristics that are going to plug in well with Teepa and to reinforce that kind of thing. So it's a triangle now, it's a triad. They're learning about each other because we're a team and it is a team sport. And the idea of Beth is getting a break, yes, but she's got this building of a team member when you've been the only one is something that's underestimated. It's one of the biggest holes in the fabric I've seen in transitioning somebody from in-home one-on-one care to facility-based care. We don't have a pattern that's really well developed for that transition. And we've got lots of bad patterns when it comes to that. And it's because often by the time we get to that place of, I can't do this anymore, you truly can't do it anymore. You're exhausted or the person has passed or something has happened, but we just don't have good transition points of how to start thinking about switching gears. And that this, for a person living with dementia, is an incredibly scary thing to suddenly be in a new place with new people doing things new ways and not having anybody who I know and anybody who's familiar with me and feeling like I've been abandoned. And, this COVID situation sure has brought that home of that sense. So really practicing this art of inclusion and building before we need it is the tricky part, before we actually need it, so that it happens easier.
So Teepa, talking about building trust, we did have some people that wanted to go back to the bathing issue, and we had a specific example, but some other people said, can we go back to that? So I think the idea of building trust, and the person does not want to have their hair washed, even when they get it cut, they won't change clothes, et cetera, et cetera. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I wonder whether the person has the same reaction to putting clothes on, us helping them put clothes on. So that's my first question. Do they react the same when you assist them with putting on a coat, with assisting them putting on a shirt, with assist them with pulling up clothing? You get the same reaction as when you're trying to get things off or to do things to them that are fairly intense sensory-wise. And it's really a question. I don't know the answer to it, and it will help me if I hear the answer.
Somebody said, no, she just seems like she doesn't want to shower on her own or even with help. Somebody else said she dresses herself.
Okay, so what we have is showering is a very intense experience. And so one of the things I'll often just take off the table initially is water coming out of a hose of any sort. Because one of the challenges with dementia is as vision modifies and as sensory processing is changed, being showered by water is not necessarily the same pleasant experience. And being in an echo chamber, which is the shower or the bath stall, when you're doing this and being naked, it's a really intense experience. It's incredibly a sense of vulnerability. And there's a lot of sequencing that has to go on. So the idea of taking the showering part out of it and doing wash-ups where you can hit the bacteria-laden areas and you work on getting the bacteria down, but in the pits, in the crotch, under the boobs, in the crevices. And you work on some sensory input that feels good, like a back rub. If somebody is not comfortable with me doing a back rub, it's unlikely they're going to like me using a washcloth on their bare back. So starting some thinking about, okay, so sensory experiences, how can I reinforce the sensory experience without going all the way? So again, that idea of not asking for an intense, intimate relationship, but let's just start with some hand massage. Let's start with some foot care. Let's start with the extremities. What happens if I say, tell you what, let me put some lotion on your legs? If I can get the person to pull their leg up and present their leg to me and let me put lotion on their leg, and then we'll switch, let's do the other one. What I'm actually building is the relationship that can allow for a care interaction. So if I can get somebody to let me stroke their head or give them a head massage or maybe a forehead massage, that level of intimacy, that touching, and getting them used to my touch. We make assumptions about how comfortable we would be if somebody just started wanting to take if I just approached any one of you and said, tell you what, I'm just going to take your clothes off. I'm going to help you take a shower. How many of you would be agreeable? And how many of you would be, absolutely not. I can do it. I don't, wait, what? No? And it's like, it's so interesting to me that when somebody has been labeled as having dementia, now all of a sudden they're resistive to care, whereas I bet I could get any one of you to be resistive to care, and you would insist that you know how to take a shower, you know how to do this. And it's like, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you're not going to let me in your world if I get pushy. And I have on occasion said to some people, I hate that I'm having to be here, but for right now, people are demanding that somebody's here. And if it's not me, I'm afraid they'll send someone else. Tell you what, how about if I hold the towel up so I can't see what you're doing, but you take your clothes off and we wrap the towel around you. And if they say, I can't get the buttons undone, well, tell you what, can you get it over your head? Let's see if we can figure out a way to empower someone again. Because for somebody who can dress themselves, what it says is there's something about being naked in front of another person that really gives me a sense of discomfort. So for some people, it's, can they stay in their underwear? How far down do we have to go? And can we go ahead and wash armpits with bras on? Turns out you can. The bra is sort of damp and stinky, but as a starting place, if I get somebody comfortable that we can do this with your bra on a couple times, then I can possibly say, tell you what, how about you unfasten the bra and I'll hand you a new one. And we don't try to wash everything, but we just put on a fresh bra. I think for me, it's more building something that works for us. But it has to start further out from the body than we typically want it to. And by the time we're getting desperate, we've had so many interactions that haven't gone well. And what we forget is so is the person on the other side of the interaction. They've had something that hasn't gone well either. And so being more flexible to do it, I mean, I've helped people bathe in their bedroom and not gone in the bathroom at all. I've helped people do it in the living room. I've helped people take half a bath and then wait, and it was another day before we got the other half of the bath because they reached their limit. That was it. They were done. And it was like, okay, we're done. And I've helped some people that weren't very comfortable get more comfortable. And it wasn't an easy session because they didn't like it. And I talked about how neither of us were liking it. And it was really hard. And I hate to be such a pain in your butt. And I hate that I'm bothering you. I know that you hate it. I hate it too. Let's just get it done. Let's finish it off. We won't do your feet. We won't do your legs. We'll just do this and we're done. So I talk about how limited I'm going to make this. And so I make it smaller and smaller and smaller until suddenly it's like, all right, fine, just do it. And it's like, okay, let's do it. Here, you do it. Well, you do it. It's just easier if you do it. All right, fine, I'll do it. Here, you hold this then. But it's never all about me doing it without you doing something. Because if I get in that mode of you being passive and me doing something, then we're right back where we started again. And now I have to watch out for what you will do, which is resist me. And this is, you're talking about a solid 40 years of clinical practice. This is not something learned overnight. And that's what our biggest problem is. People come into this, they're asked to do it cold without any kind of preparation on how to do this. And you stumble around in it. And all the evidence is there, it's not going well. And you still keep trying because what else are you going to do? Nobody says, this is a highlight area. This is really a rough spot. Be thoughtful. We do not want to cause trauma in this area because we will be paying for the trauma a long time. And what we don't know is the background of story of many people. What might have led them to the place where this makes them so uncomfortable that, how many of you remember gym class in 7th grade or 8th grade? I'm not sure what you call it now. It's called middle school. But back then it was 7th and 8th grade. And all the girls had to strip down and go shower, and you were only allowed to have your period so many times a month. And otherwise you had to, because they made you, and of course, some girls look good and some girls don't look so good in middle school. I was not one of the good looking girls in middle school. And, being herded in and herded out, and people, it was a miserable experience. And that, for many of us, that was our last public shower. And now we're going back to it. I don't think so. So I think, and it's not that I don't believe that people should get clean and have good care. I do. But I just know that it's for me, there's lots of ways to get there.
Teepa, the way you describe some of this stuff is obviously with so many years of clinical expertise. And one of the things that I realized I went to with Cheryl was that use of space. Mm-hmm. How do I envision that use of space protective for the person? So I'm trying to think of, I am focused on the task, but I still want to be aware of the person. Yeah. And one of the images that came to mind was something where I remember you helped a man who was refusing any sort of wash-ups. And with a little bit of interaction several hours of interaction, your takeaway might have been that he probably at some point had some violent sexual abuse in a POW situation. Yep. And this image really struck me in how much, and I'm wondering if you could talk just a second about the body positioning you have here. I don't know if folks can see that picture. And I just, as I watched it this year, it's the blanket around him and the feet washing with the tub.
Yeah, so we're in a common space and I have a wash basin down at his feet and I'm kneeling down beside him and I'm working with his feet and he is in the chair and I've got him nice and warm and covered, but we're in a very open area because anytime he got in a closed space, he would have a panic attack. I mean, and it was pretty extreme. And so what he was comfortable with is only in common space. And if you notice, I'm alongside him and am I clearly only going to be doing something with his feet? I mean, is there, the way I've positioned myself, would it be easy for me to turn and do anything to the rest of his body? And so what I've done is I've set up in an environment and a setting where his comfort was as high as it could be. And I still could only get a little bit done at a time, but it was more than anyone else was able to help him with. And it took a while for us to get there. And then people started to see the difference in him when we didn't push him. And they were actually, I think when we first started working, they were using 3 to 6 people to try to change him or to try to clean him or bathe him or get him to do things. And they were using jumpsuits, which means they had to strip him every time they went to do something, the one piece zip up the back things, which was a really intense experience. And so we went back to something that wasn't like that as well. There was more control. I mean, I've also had men that it was prisoner of war, or in other situations, it was school abuse or religious faith group abuse. And the person never talked about it, but now they have dementia. And it's really playing itself out with an uncomfortableness with being touched by someone in an authority position. So having to be real careful that I don't come across as an authority. So I don't know whether we've helped anybody who was asking about some of the different showering and bathing things. It's a very involved topic, but it's also a very common issue topic. So I will try to pull together more of the videos that we have and see if we can create sort of maybe a training sequence that would help people sort of start to sort of figure out some things to try, because it is a frustrating place to be as somebody who cares about someone and can't figure out how to get somewhere. And we're not much into Band-Aids. We're really into trying to figure out what's going on and trying to problem solve. So that may be a deeper dive. So Rachel, what else we got?
Somebody on YouTube asked if it's true that the people living with dementia develop an immunity to the meds. So at what point do the meds stop helping the person living with dementia?
Okay, so I'm going to have to do a little interpretive piece here, which is I'm assuming we're talking about acetylcholinesterase inhibitors and glutamate moderators. If you like how I throw those words out there, that's because I know them. So acetylcholinesterase inhibitors are things like Aricept, Exelon, Razidine, or the generic variations of them. Acetylcholinesterase inhibitors are medications that produce something that's like fake acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine is a chemical that occurs in the human brain. It's produced. And the cool part about acetylcholine is it's an activator. It's a brain activity activator. It gets brain cells active, and it's a message sender. And so it hooks on to brain cells and gets them activated. So one of the things that happens with many forms of dementia is there is less acetylcholine being produced. As brain cells get sick and they die, they produce less acetylcholine. The other thing that happens is the brain cells themselves start shrinking and shriveling away from one another. And so there's greater distance for the acetylcholine molecule to travel to get from one brain cell to another, because brain cells don't actually touch one another. There's a space between them and the chemicals shoot across and they attach. So what ends up happening is more and more of the chemical doesn't make it where it should be to activate the next brain cell. But the other thing that's happening is an enzyme is produced that gets rid of the chemical once it connects, so that that cell can take another connection in a little bit. So these chemicals that we give people, the drugs that we give people, were never meant to do anything about the dementia. So they don't help the dementia at all. They don't help cells deteriorating. They don't help cells producing less acetylcholine. They have no impact on that. What they do have is that they can produce fake acetylcholine. And so some of the enzyme hooks onto the fake acetylcholine. And if the brain is still producing acetylcholine, it can get the chemical across the pathway and latch on. And so we might see a little bit of brightening, a little bit of activity from the person living with dementia. Here's the tricky part. It turns out in about 1/3 of all cases, it helps to some extent for a period of time. In some cases, it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt, it just costs money. It's just a pain to give them the medicines. It's not doing anything, because either what they have going on isn't a loss of acetylcholine, or the cells that would cause the person to be able to do that are dying, and it doesn't matter how much fake acetylcholine you dump in there, it's not doing any good. Or in some cases, 1/3 of cases, it may be actually causing problems for the person. And for people who have certain types of dementia, they shouldn't even take this medication. So anybody who has a frontal behavioral variant, frontal temporal dementia, or a frontal temporal dementia, frequently they shouldn't be on acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, is the recent finding, because that's not what's wrong. They don't need more acetylcholine. All that does is make them more anxious or more challenged by what they're doing. It can help some people, but it frequently doesn't. How long will it be helpful? Well, as the disease spreads through the brain, what we're going to see is the disease is still happening. Could it be helpful in another area? Could it be what helps a person remember to bring the spoon to their mouth? Maybe. So the tricky part is it's highly probable that at some point these meds for many people are not going to be helping as much. They may be causing problems. They may still be helping. So if we're going to discontinue them, one way to think about doing that is called titration. So you reduce it a little bit and see if you see anything different. You reduce it a little bit more, you see if you see anything different. You reduce it a little bit more and you see if you see anything different. If you don't see anything different, it probably wasn't helping anymore, even if it had been. So these meds are not magic meds. Now, the other one is a Namenda or a glutamate moderator, and it controls how much glutamate gets through. And so it's the same situation, though. Neither one of these were ever designed to stop or change dementia. And I think they don't affect dementia. They just affect how much acetylcholine might be active. So it's totally different than the dementia. And I wish people would get better at, physicians or medical providers would get better at explaining what the meds are for, because they act like it's going to slow the disease down. It doesn't. That's not what happens. You can't slow dementia down with acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. You help somebody maybe be able to function the best they can function with them, but it's not changing their dementia. And so people get really hooked on, mom has to take this medicine because it's slowing down the disease. And it's like, no, it isn't. If you're doing battle over the meds every day, I wonder whether it's worth it. I mean, it's just something to ask yourself, because it's not changing the dementia. And if it's damaging the relationship, wow. Because these meds do have side effects for some people. Incontinence, made worse, having problems with bowel control, sometimes having anxiety, on top of something else. Could have cardiac problems, could have more problems with indigestion, problems with stomach upset, reduced appetite because I have reflux. So it's, it's that kind of thing where you go, I don't know, let's titrate down and see if anything's happening. If not, and if you do notice it, well, let's go back up because maybe that it was making a difference. But this is not a magic med these are not magic medications. And it's hard because physicians sometimes say things in such a way that you feel compelled to do something. And yet ask harder questions, I think. Because honestly, they don't treat dementia. That's not what they do. They don't have anything that does that yet.
Teepa, we just got a question. And kind of what I picked out, kind of the basic idea is that this lady's mom tends to be on the negative side. And even when her daughter tries to be positive, it really doesn't seem to help. And she tends to be rather negative about food. I don't like this. I can't eat this, that kind of thing. She will eat sweets. But I think the daughter's trying to figure out, how do I get her to eat healthier food and not be quite so negative?
Okay, how do you make healthy food taste sweet? So I'm going to switch the question, which is a little bit, I'm not going to play devil's advocate, but I'm just going to say, how do I make healthy food taste sweet? Because what her primitive brain is saying is sugar, I like sugar. Sugar gives me a rush. I feel better when I get sugar. And in fact, it's an energy supporter. And so for a few brief seconds, yes, I get a little rush. And so my primitive brain goes, yes, give me sugar, I like it. And the problem is I also burn it really quick. So as soon as it burns off, guess what I want? More. And so this cycling, and nothing else tastes as good as that because my primitive brain is going, yeah, sugar, sugar, sugar. And what it should be is, I'd like some sugar. You know what? I'd like some protein. I would like a little bit of salt. I'd like a little sour and bitter. But that's sort of this chemical mixing that our brain is familiar. A healthy brain likes that because we get the value of it. So what we have is somebody who is not seeing value in long-term intake. It's just the immediacy of intake. So we've got somebody who's fairly negative. And so one of the things we might try is, so Diane, I'm going to be really positive with you and really upbeat. And I want you to be your sort of not as happy self.
My normal grumpy self?
Well, no, you aren't normally. I wasn't going to use grumpy. I was going to just say less energetic. So not good morning. Good morning, Diane. How are ya? You're looking good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi, Teepa.
Hey, how about we get up, get going, and we can get you something? Come on up. Let's see. This is a beautiful day out. It's supposed to be sunny all day long.
I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable right here. I'm just.
You know what? Let's try it. Let's get up. Come on. You can do this. Let's come on. Okay, so how long would it be before you pull the covers over your head and say, leave me alone? Okay, so I'm being sort of extreme, but I almost encourage people to tape record themselves, because when we think of ourselves as being positive, sometimes what we are is okay, I'm going to bring my positive energy into this. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to bring your nervous anxiety into this, because what happens is she's going to be negative. I know she's going to be negative. I want to try to help her not be negative. And instead, I'm going to try something different. Diane?
Oh, hi, Teepa.
Hey. Listen, it's about time to get up. Now, do you want something hot or cold to drink first thing?
Oh, it's time to get up already.
Yeah, I know.
I think hot.
Something hot. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to do something first. Now, what I'm going to do is she said she wanted something hot. Guess what I'm going to do to the thermostat in the room? Turn it up. I'm going to turn it up. So I'm just going to stop there and pause for a second and go turn the thermostat up. Because I want it to be warm in the room. So when she comes out from under the covers, what did she just tell me? She wanted something warm. Okay, I'm going to start thinking warm. I'm going to warm things up. Ooh. So Diane, I've got a warm washcloth right here. You've got some sleep right here. See if you can't wipe that out of there.
Oh, that feels good.
Is that decent?
Cozy.
Is that decent? Okay, cool. Yeah, here, dry off, pat off. You don't want to leave that wet there, do you? No, cool. All right. Now, coffee or tea?
Definitely coffee.
Definitely coffee.
With
All right, well, tell you what, push the covers down. Now, how much talking about eating am I doing? One little comment, move on. This or that, move on. And it's either this or that. This hot or cold, warm or cold, coffee or tea or coffee or something else, move on. I don't want to have a whole conversation about food because what I've heard is a conversation about food goes south. So I'm not going to go there. I'm going to do this or that, and then I'm going to go back to whatever task we're doing, whatever that is. And I'm not going to work on a relationship until she's up and moving. Because I'm wondering how much of the negative is a slow starter, a slow arouser, who's taking some time to get going. And one of the things we may want to think about doing is simple mouth care in the morning, because sometimes appetite is actually improved with mouth care. Because when we move stuff, people could be mouth breathers, dry mouth. They might have leftovers from last night. They might have had some reflux. But there's a number of reasons why mouth care first thing in the morning stimulates swallow. It reduces the risk of aspiration. It improves the production of saliva. So we want to do maybe just a little bit of mouth care, not an intense session of mouth care, but just sort of light touch with the toothbrush, maybe some on the tongue, to get the mouth and the taste buds more tuned up. And what kind of toothpaste do you maybe want to think about?
Maybe the 14-year-old still uses.
Yeah, the kid toothpaste, the strawberry flavored, the sweet toothpaste, because then what I'm doing is I'm giving you something sweet before we get going at all. And it's not actually something to eat, it's toothpaste. So, but you may also want to think about mouthwash that's the kid's strawberry flavor, so that you get some of the sweet going on before we go into anything else. Guess what they just got? Their first rush of sugar, their first rush of sweet, and I haven't even done anything with the meal. And so then we move into, so tell you what, toast with honey or toast with cream cheese and
honey.
Honey.
We do
All right.
cinnamon. She likes a cinnamon cereal in the morning, and she wants to add sugar onto it. And it's like, it's already got sugar on it.
She's a super sweeter. She has turned into a super sweeter.
Her mother was. Her mother would go out for groceries when she had Alzheimer's and would buy 3 bags of cookies.
It is one of the most common untalked about situations. Their actually ability to taste sweet is starting to drop. The primitive brain's drive for sugar is off the charts.
But she'll brush her teeth with soap, like ivory soap, because she's got dentures. Yeah. And it's like, so I put her toothpaste on, which is a sweeter toothpaste, on the brush every night. Yep. And
Good job.
I put pills out. And
good job.
I've got her dates on everything. I'm like going, like, here's today, and this is what we do. But it's the food, it's the negative. I'm so full. So I do distraction, deflection. But it's like, what do you do for self when you're putting all that energy into getting someone to, you're distracting, deflecting so they eat. And before you know it, she eats the whole thing.
Yep.
But it's negative. It's all, and by the end of the night, I find I'm like, holy crap, I'm tired.
Yeah, and you probably are. So looking at smaller portions and maybe walking snacks.
Chop them up.
Have you thought about walking and eating?
She won't go out with the snow. If
Okay.
It's cold, nope.
Nope. Okay. Yeah, that makes it tough. What about standing at the counter and maybe washing things and only taking a bite at a time? But she's doing something else rather than focusing on eating.
Yeah, we could try that.
So maybe not sitting at the table, but really standing at the counter and doing something else and just grabbing a bite here. Could you put this cup up here up in the cabinet? Okay. Yeah, try a bite of that. How is it?
I put grapes out, I put bananas out because she used to eat fruit, but she won't eat fruit now.
Yeah. Try it with some yogurt dip.
She doesn't like yogurt.
With honey in it?
Nope.
Oh,
no,
wow.
She's got an old-fashioned 89-year-old with Alzheimer's.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've got old habit structures too. Well, you're doing as well as you can. And so maybe what I'm going to do is take your hand like this. Do this. Make a fist.
Yeah.
And now do this. Let it go. She's 90 years old.
Exactly.
Let her die with sugar all over her. So you gave me the missing piece, which is she's freaking 89. She made it this far. Let her eat sugar.
Well, she turned us pre-diabetic, and she's a former nurse, and I'm a former teacher.
I know. Then the two of you, what did you watch me do? Right there.
Exactly.
Let it go. Let her put sugar on her cereal. Maybe it's time to live off the hog. Yeah. I mean, that idea of not getting exhausted, because what I hear you saying is it's wearing you out. And I do think it's time to really look at, there's two of you in this mix, and we don't need you going down that road.
Yeah.
We don't need your blood sugars spiking and troughing because you're trying to manage your mom's.
There we go.
Because you matter. You matter, Sherry. And so it's just, we don't need you putting yourself in the ground on this one, because you're doing a great job. Give yourself credit and let that go.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. I get it. I really do, but we're not going to fix her.
On a given day, she's good. On another day, we have a different day.
Celebrate the good days and let go of the ones that aren't working. Yeah.
As I said, when people say to me, why do you do what you do with her? I said, so she can live in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So find joy in that moment with her. Yay. Here you go. You want the sprinkle kind, or do you want a sugar cube dumped in? Which way do you want it?
Well, more berries. That's where I'm going. More berries.
More berries. There you go.
Get your sugar on the berries. We're good.
There you go. Blueberries are great. Yeah, blueberries are fantastic if she'll eat those.
Yeah.
Good work. Yeah, that's a great idea with the nut butter. I've got a feeling this lady's sort of a tough cookie when it comes to the way she likes it. What kind of cookies does she like? Probably something really bad for you.
My mom?
Yeah.
You know what? To be honest, I can get her to eat stuff, but it's always too much, and it's always, there's never a positive moment in her day.
Yeah. So
and yet she has positive days. She has caregivers. She's got great days. She's got her house paid off. She's got a great life. I moved from overseas, gave up my job to help her out, my career. And there is nothing that's positive. So we do like the hey positive thing, and I'm like, hey, look at what you had today, and oh, you did this, I did. And when she asked for her fourth cookie, I go, oh my God, I've got some great mandarin oranges for you. Do you want those? And she's like, mandarin oranges? I haven't had those in a long time. She had them the day before. So it's like, well, let's go there.
There you go.
I think what the hard part is I've never seen such negativity. I'm a really positive person.
Yeah.
So I'm not used to seeing negativity.
So who are you around to that's positive? Who's around you that's positive? I got that your mom isn't.
Pretty much no one. I moved back to my hometown.
Bummer.
And I started working at the college. I used to work at a university. I started working at a college, and the people there don't integrate. So
Ouch.
I met my one neighbor. She's kind of positive, and that's about it. The other people here it's a hard nut to crack in this little town, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And then
Sounds
when COVID
like
hit, you're like, ooh, you guys are
really isolated. Yeah.
But did for us, did New Year's change? No, because Mom and I always have lobster on New Year's. And I've been doing that for years. And I've been doing it with my dad and my mom when they got too old. So New Year's didn't change for us. But it's the negativity and seeing the repetitiveness and thinking that she lives somewhere else. And those are big changes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody else who's here, hi everybody, has probably seen the same thing happen. And it's how do you bring a positive energy into someone who's negative and still keep that positive energy within yourself with a true belief of yourself, not a fake positive energy, but waking up in the morning going, it is going to work. I can make this day work because I believe in, like, you know, and you get up and you get grumpy Gus going down the hallway. I'm sure you've all seen it. Why am I still awake? Why am I still alive? And that's
because I love you, Mom. That's why.
Yeah. And I said, well, because I guess God didn't want you to die, and I love you, and well, I just want to annoy the hell out of you for one more day. What the hell?
Good.
You know? Yeah.
Start by annoying me by giving me a hug. That would really annoy the crap out of me, Mom.
And I do the hug at night. I haven't been doing it lately, but I give her a hug at night. I go, hey, got to tell you, you got to go to sleep, and I'll let you know I love you. So here's a hug. Well, I'm glad somebody does. It's Eeyore.
And you live with Eeyore.
I do. I live with Eeyore.
And you're Tigger. Oh, this isn't good.
I am. Actually, Tigger's my favorite cartoon character. Bounce, 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 bounce.
You know, the person that lets that happen is you got to find Pooh.
I know, but I ain't got a Pooh.
Either that or Roo, but you can't just hang with Eeyore. We're going to...
I'm hanging. I got a Tigger hanging out with Eeyore. So I don't know if any wisdom, but let me tell you.
Oh, so not a good plan. Well, we have overstayed our welcome. It is 8:35. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for sharing your questions. For anybody who has a complicated situation and wants to do some problem solving, some deeper problem solving, we are going to be doing that on the 20th, but we'll want to talk with you beforehand so we can sort of lay out your story a little bit more. So if anybody here has one of those situations that you want to dig in a bit more, one of our PAC team will get up with you, have a conversation with you, and we'll problem solve together on the 20th. So the 20th of January, we're going to be meeting twice a month, this one on questions, and then on the 20th, we're going to dig into situations. So I look forward to the possibility of seeing you guys again in short order. It was good to have everybody here. Matthew, thanks for helping us out there at YouTube land, and Rachel and Beth and Cheryl and Diane and Carrie and Catherine for handling all.
Thanks, Teepa.
Thanks, guys.
It's
great having you here.
Guys.
Take care, everybody. See you again soon. Oh, on Monday we're doing, I should have said Brain Connection Cafe. Oops. Oh, well. come Monday if you're bored in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. Come visit. We do stuff.